built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. My name is Jess Blaze with Apex Construction Group, and I am joined by Kate Cox today. And we are going to have an awesome conversation about your work as a clinical social worker and your work with Project for Teens, which is an amazing nonprofit that we're going to learn more about on the episode today. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm so excited to be here. This is honestly my most favorite topic to talk about, so I'm thrilled.
It's so exciting. It's so important. So why don't we start? Let's have you tell us about yourself and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm a clinical social worker, and I have my undergrad and graduate degree from University of Iowa in social work, and most of my background has been in healthcare, so working at University of Iowa hospitals and clinics, and the Mayo Clinic and the Mayo Clinic Health System. Most recently, I am a therapist for children and adolescents at Nystrom and Associates here in town, as well as volunteering my time as the executive director for Project for Teens. I have 2 boys, and I spend a lot of time on the sidelines at hockey games, watching them, cross country, soccer, track meets, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm very passionate about volunteering in the community.
That's amazing. You obviously have your plate very full. Are you from Iowa, as an aside?
I am, yes, from the Quad Cities.
Okay.
And so it's hilarious when I get teased and made fun of from being from Iowa, because Mankato is the smallest town I've ever lived in. I'm from the Quad Cities, so Chicago is our backyard. But yes, so Iowa's my home ground.
I'm from Iowa too.
Oh my gosh.
Did you know that?
That's why I like you so much.
Yes.
Where are you from in
I
Iowa?
grew up in Waukon. It's near Decorah.
I know where Waukon is.
Yeah.
Home of Blue Bunny ice cream.
No.
Is that it?
Is that it?
Isn't it Blue Bunny ice cream?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Is that
Forget
what?
it then.
Wells?
I thought it was Waukon, but I could be wrong. But I have
So there's like nothing in Waukon.
but Ragbri has gone through there.
Ragbri has gone through
Yes.
there. Luther College is in Decorah.
Yes. Oh, I know Luther College,
which is a
well.
beautiful college.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always champion my fellow Iowans who are up here.
And
in
I feel like
Minnesota
anytime I
territory.
Meet somebody from Iowa living in Minnesota, I'm like, you're my people.
I know, me too. That's why when you're like,
you're my people.
oh, Iowa. Oh, yeah, me too. So we start all of our episodes of the Build Blue podcast with our Apex Icebreaker. So we have to know, if you were going to open and run a business, since we build businesses, this is why we ask it. So if you were going to open and run any business, what would it be?
Okay, brace yourself for this, because I would love to open an actual Project for Teen center, because right now I operate out of my car or out of the schools or out of my kitchen. And just imagine this, this Project for Teen location, and it would be super cool and trendy, and high schoolers could come hang out there. We'd have all these resources. We'd have our Project for Teen leaders there as well, just doing some mentoring. I know.
Just got goosebumps.
And then what I would do, this is my pipe dream, is I would take our little Tinker Toy Project for Teen program, and I would just package it all in the bow, and then be able to sell it to any kind of school district in the entire country or world. And so every school could have this program. That would be my pipeline dream.
That's amazing.
I know. And then I'd have some little wellness stuff for kids, where we could do some yoga and some mind and body. And then I'd offer free transportation, because transportation's always an issue, and it would just be this awesome, cool resource place. And we'd have a call-in center where teens were answering the phone, and yeah, it would be so cool. I just need to raise $100 million. I'm pretty sure.
Just got the goosebumps.
I know, and Apex could build this cool, build awesome thing. Yeah,
just speak it into existence.
I know.
That's
my pipeline dream.
I absolutely love it. So let's talk about your background in clinical social work, kind of in that medical aspect, and kind of what that path has looked like throughout your career, which has led you to where you are now.
Great question. So I knew I always wanted to work in the hospital setting. I had a big surgery when I was 9 years old, and But I knew in my heart that I didn't want to be the person necessarily that was doing the surgeries or doing the blood draws or anything like that. I wanted to be the person that when they got their cancer diagnosis, or when they were told that they had to have a leg amputated, or when they came in because just life was getting hard, I wanted to be that person on the team that was there to say, okay, this is a lot of stuff. How are we going to, how can I best help you deal with your medical diagnosis in your life? So that was really cool. And so I had all these incredible opportunities, both working at University of Iowa Hospital and Clinic, and then of course Mayo Clinic in Rochester, and then Mayo Clinic here. And then, from there, and I did that for like almost 18 years. From there, I was seeing a huge need in the community with kids coming in where we really lacked mental health resources. And what was happening is when kids were coming to the ER or coming into our clinics or hospital, we did not have any kind of intensive outpatient programming or partial hospitalization for kids. And so kids were having to be sent to Rochester or the Twin Cities or up to Duluth. And it's not helpful for parents when they're having a crisis in their life and kids. And so that brought me to bringing the resource Prairie Care here in town. And then from there, Project for Teens was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so trying to do both was getting to be a lot. So that led me to just really focusing on Project for Teens, and then also working just a couple days a week over at Nystrom and Associates as a therapist.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Project for Teens, let's talk about the great work that this organization is doing for youth and teens in the community, and maybe some background for people who may not be familiar with it.
Yeah. So Project for Teens is incredibly cool. It's a peer-to-peer mentoring program, and we work specifically with 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And one of the things that I'm most proud about is, as long as you have a child that's in 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade in Mankato, whether it's at Loyola, East, West, St. Peter, or Lake Crystal, you get the program just for being a student. So that's really neat. And we have specific things that we focus on. So 5th grade, Jessica, you and I were talking about that with you having a 5th grader starting this year. He's going to get Project for Teens. I know. And we focus a lot on getting him ready for middle school and getting really excited about that. And in 6th grade, we talk a lot about bullying in person, and specifically like with girls, that high level relational aggression. So for example, like Jessica, you and I are out having a great time, and we're going to have a slumber party. We've got some girls, and what we're going to do now is we're going to Snapchat a picture over to another girl just to let her know that she's not invited. Mm-hmm. Just that passive aggressive, high level that can be so unbelievably paralyzing.
Yes.
And so we talk a lot about bullying in person, online.
Yeah.
Just the things that go along in the, that happen in the lunchroom with who's sitting by who and things like that. 7th grade, we transition into vaping and do talk a lot about vaping. We also talk more about social media type of things. Just, how you can get into situations where you're being asked to send maybe an inappropriate picture and what that looks like and things like that. So at 7th grade, 8th grade is heavily focused on mental health. And it's also focused on relationships. Like we work really hard on showing and demonstrating kids how to ask for consent, what a healthy relationship looks like versus an unhealthy relationship, everything from like what ghosting is to gaslighting to, if you're in a relationship and somebody's telling you like, hey, if you leave me or get out of the relationship, I'll hurt myself, that kind of stuff. And so giving kids, or teens I should say, the tools and toolbox so when they're in these situations they know how to handle them.
So powerful.
Yeah.
So incredibly powerful, and like what a service for these youth. But even like the part to me that just is so different is that the mentors are teenagers.
They're teenagers.
They're high school students.
They're teenagers. And that goes back to my practice. So, when kids come in or teens come in and talk to me and they're bringing all the issues that are going on in their life, and I can give them tools and skills, and when they leave, I'm like, oh my gosh, be resilient, use your skills, you got this. You send them back into that chaotic environment that they don't have a lot of control of. But here's the deal. It is so much more influential and impactful if when I'm talking to somebody and saying, hey, don't vape, it can affect, A, B, C, D, and E. But when I have one of the captains of the football team coming in and saying that same thing, it's so much more impactful and influential than old girl, saying, hey, make good choices, but when I've got teens coming in and talking about their own personal experiences and how that they've been able to navigate it, it becomes very powerful.
Oh, absolutely. And I imagine that you have some really positive outcomes because of that. Do you have any, obviously not super specific, but any kind of examples that you can share?
Oh my gosh, there's so many, but I remember one, a story, and we actually talk about this with our 7th graders, but this was years ago. A 7th grader had shared this story that she had the project for teen students come into their class, and the next day students were playing that kind of hot or not game, and it was a bunch of girls, and they were actually doing it to the boys and had them line up, and the boys would come up to them, and one would, they'd let them know if you're hot or not. And she was just standing in the background observing this, and one of the boys came up, and the girls were like, just so you know, you're not hot, and this is why. And that 7th grader walked up to that boy and said, just so you know, what they said wasn't okay. It absolutely wasn't okay. And one of the Dakota Meadows teacher observed it at the time and said, you know what, you did such a great job. We're so proud of you. Here is a ticket that you get to be first in line for lunch, which is the most coveted award ever. And she turned around and gave it to that kid. Oh. I know. Just
when you thought the story could get better.
I know. And so there's so many stories like that. But then twofold, the impact that it has on the high school students. And so, when they're telling me things like, this is the most impactful thing that I have single-handedly done in high school. When I get calls from students that have graduated from our high schools, and I had one call and said, I just want to know exactly what your background was, because I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go, and I need to recreate that feeling that I had while I was part of Project for Teens, and I need to know how to do that. I had another student that's getting ready to graduate from the U of M, just come into town this week and shared this story that he was doing an internship in Singapore and ran into a situation where there was a lot of things going on, and he said, I used those Project for Teen skills to get myself out of that situation that I knew wasn't safe and wasn't okay. And so it's just story after story after story like that.
And just the obviously these are lifelong skills
that
they're learning at this young age that they're taking with them, which is incredible. How much time do the Project for Teens mentors spend with the adolescent, the youth?
Great question. I've never figured that out. But they're going in several times during the year to spend. But they are, just so you know, when our leaders come in to present, they're presenting to an entire classroom.
Sure.
So the entire day,
Oh, okay.
And so, but what we do then, part of that time built in is the small group. And so then the kids are getting a lot of kind of one-on-one, one-on-two, one-on-three relationship building with that teens, where they're talking specifically and asking kids, okay, we just got done talking about this. what do you see in your school? How do you handle these situations? Because I was in that situation in 8th grade, and this is what I did, but I wish I would have done this instead, or this is how I handle these types of things. So they get a lot of that. And what has happened, which is a great thing, but I'm constantly getting calls from our school social workers and from teachers just begging and begging and begging for more Project for Teens, because they're like, this is what we're struggling. We know this works. Can you please kind of help? Can you help with some of these fringe kids? We've done projects where we've just met with some kids, one-on-one and stuff that are struggling, that just need that extra support from somebody influential, like a high schooler. And then, these high schoolers make sure to tell them, like, when you see us around, you come talk to us, and this is how you reach us. And you can find us here, but we're here to help you figure out this thing called life, that's really hard, right?
It's so cool. So what's the process that the teen leaders go through, and kind of how do you engage them and get them excited to be part of the program?
Yeah, so this is the impressive part. So besides applications go out right at the beginning of the school year, because we're putting our teams together right away, and you have to either be in 10th, 11th, or 12th grade to be in Project for Teens. So you have to fill out this application, and then once you do that, then teachers do give feedback, because honestly, if you're somebody in the classroom every day that is being so disrespectful to the teacher, and that's going to carry out.
Sure.
And then what they have to do is they have to come in for an interview. And it's not a normal interview. They are asked questions like, tell us about a time that you failed, like really messed up, because we all mess up, we all make mistakes. But how did you navigate? And then what did you do about that? How did you do better and be better? Like what were the steps? And it can't just be the classic answer of like, well, I should have studied more for a test, So they have to be able to answer those questions that are a little bit harder, because when you agree to be on Project for Teens, you agree to walk the talk. So that involves, working really hard to make healthy decisions, like not drinking, not doing drugs, not vaping, those types of things. And, and I tell adolescents, I'm like, you're adolescents, you're teenager, you're not exempt from all the peer pressures that are going to come at you. And quite frankly, sometimes they get more targeted because they have that shirt on. And unfortunately, kids can sometimes be like, well, let's see if we can get them to mess up, type of thing. But what we do and work very hard to do is create an environment for them too, to help them. So giving them a place, like, for example, really striving home of, when you do mess up, that's okay, but you need to tell us, you need to talk to us so we can help you navigate this, so we can help you figure this out. And so that's part of it too. But it's exciting because when I started this, we had 25 teens, and we were just in a couple schools, and we'll have 200 this year. So it's exciting, and it's awesome. And
it's so awesome. I love it so much. The question I'm about to ask, I don't know if we have time to even scratch the surface, Kate, but what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that our youth and teens are facing today?
Yeah, that's a good one. This is no surprise to anybody, but we are diagnosing children with depression, anxiety, other mental health at younger and younger and younger ages. I have been doing this for well over 20 years, and I would say in the last couple of years, I've never seen the suicidal ideation like I do. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching. Lots of suicidal ideations, lots of just pressure. There's so much pressure on kids, to perform well in sports, and to take all the AP classes, and to have jobs, and to know exactly what they want to do. At such a young age, I see a lot of just lots of stress, lots of pressure on high school students. That's hard. And then, internet. I know it's so hard to say this, but it has such an influence and impact on our adolescents and our teenagers, and not only where they're at cognitively in their development, but also socially. I see big dips in self-esteem, big dips in self-confidence. But I can remember specifically having a project knowing a student younger that was so anxious that could barely get off the bus. But years later, he's in Project for Teens and he's leading a class discussion on bullying. So what I will say is, yes, there's so many things on teens' plates right now, and we're working really hard as a society just to even make it harder for them. What other barriers can we put in place? But on the other hand, the way that they are able to be resilient, the way they're able to handle adversity is so unbelievably impressive.
Yeah, I just think that there is so much.
Yeah.
Like we could talk all day. We talked a little before we started recording, and it's like there's so much. So now kind of switching the script and talking about parents.
Yeah.
And like you have high school kids. My oldest is in 5th grade, and we were the last generation to grow up before the internet.
We were.
So we're navigating completely uncharted territory where we didn't grow up with these kind of challenges. We had our own challenges, but they were different. And so like what is the best thing that today's parents can do to support these youth and teens?
Yeah. This is going to be unpopular, I'm sure, but is many, positive things we have with the internet and technology and where we're at comes with a lot of negativity. And so a lot of the apps do require age 13 before you can even be on them, which I still think is pretty young. But I tell parents, know what your kids know. And I know that that's so hard because they operate at such a faster speed than we do. But if they are having access to Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram, you need to be monitoring that, because if you're not, it's really hard to parent when you don't know. When you don't know what's going on, or the conversations that they're having, or the barriers that they're running into, it's really hard to parent. The other thing I always tell parents is our job is to put limits and boundaries in place for our kids and teens. Their job is to push every single limit and boundary we put in place. And so many times when I'm talking to parents and they're really struggling because they don't want their kids to be mad at them and they want their kids to like them, I'm constantly saying, I am going to give you permission to parent. And when you're parenting and when you're putting in limits and boundaries and also consequences, it's coming from a place of love, and it's coming from a place of we're trying to teach them life skills and things like that. The other thing I always tell parents is, and we really are bad about this, but having kids really own and take accountability for when they do stumble and when they do fail. And I mean, I'm talking, and these are hard skills, but I'm talking about if you get in trouble in the classroom, for example, and you get called home, or the call comes home and you're talking to your kid and your kid says, oh, I'm sorry, and I'll say sorry to the teacher. If we take that extra step with having the child actually go in front of the classroom and say, I'm really sorry, I was so disrespectful yesterday, because when I was being disrespectful, the teacher had to stop teaching to deal with me. That took away from all your learning. I know that's very high level skills, but if we start that at an early age, it really does triple affect, how they grow into these incredible leaders. And I know our leaders in Project for Teens, when they have stumbled, we do create that safe space for them to help them navigate it. But part of that is like, okay, yeah, this happened. Yeah. Okay, what are we going to do now? How are we going to fix this? How are we going to make that better? And sometimes it means going in front of the Project for Teen team West team, it might be, and telling the story. I remember specifically a leader had come and said, gosh, I really made a mistake. I vaped over Jobs, and just came Monday morning bawling, and I'm going to get kicked out of Project for Teens. I can't believe I did that. I'm so horrified, and this program's made been so important. And, I said, we all stumble, but we have a chance to make it better. I said, how about if we bring in all the leaders from West and you sit down and talk to them? And he did, and his lip is trembling, a big crocodile tear coming down his face, and this is how it went. The first guy leader said, hey, you know what, it's okay, we're here to support you. The second guy leader said, hey, I need you to take out your phone. I'm going to give you my phone number. So when you get in that situation again, you call me, and I will come and help you. So those are the ripple effects that happen when you stumble. And if we can teach our kids, it's okay. And if we can model when we mess up,
can you come vulnerable. Can you do that? Can we do Project for Adults, Kate?
We can. Oh my gosh. We can model even on our, do I dare say, even on our social media pages that our lives aren't all, roses and, just awesome things, those up and down struggles. Yeah.
Totally. Do you think, or do you see or find, or like when parents are taking care of their own mental health, do you see that trickle down into their kids?
Of course. And I will say sometimes, as somebody that works so closely with kids and teens with mental health, one of the best, most effective things is to talk to your kids about your own mental health. Because a lot of mental health is hereditary. A lot of it is, and so if you're an anxious person, you're probably going to have one of your kids that are anxious. But you know what? Or if you have ADD or ADHD, most likely one of your kids may have that. And what I tell people all the time is the most successful people ever, our biggest leaders and stuff like that, have mental health. And, and they're thriving and doing well. And that's the great thing about mental health, is it is so common and it's so treatable. But if adults can model that to teens and kids, and then twofold, having Project for Teens as teenagers come in and talk to middle schoolers about mental health and talking about their own mental health, I mean, that's how we really can just really reduce that stigma.
And they're hearing that phrase even. I mean, I remember not that long ago when talking about mental health was taboo.
Oh, it was
and
just
nobody
such a
talked about
sign
it.
of weakness.
And it was like this, there was no differentiation between mental health and mental illness. And like if you're struggling with your mental health, it's not always necessarily something that's diagnosable. Like you can just struggle with your mental health. It's just like your physical health.
Absolutely.
But the conversation seems like it's getting louder and more people are talking about it. Like you're seeing athletes like Simone Biles and Tom Brady, and I'm not a sports person, so that's kind of the end of my knowledge. But I know
Phelps.
My husband has talked about a lot of athletes that are coming forward and talking about the pressure and talking about how it's affected their mental health. And I think all of these things are so important.
We need to get loud. We need to get very, very, very loud. And that's how we reduce stigma, because we all struggle with something. And and it's so crucial and so important. I remember when my son, who is now in high school, was diagnosed with ADD. The first thing I did was we went to see a Maroon 5 concert because I needed him to see somebody with this that was so successful. And Adam Levine was that person for him. And I was like, look at cool people doing cool things, and look at the successes that you can have, and look, and I tell kids all the time, I was like, people with anxiety or people with ADD, those are our neurosurgeons and our ER doctors. There are teachers. There are, community leaders. And it's okay, but if it doesn't go untreated, that's where problems can really spiral in, and that's where people can start self-medicating, kids and teens as well. So the more that we can talk about it, the more that we can be very honest and open about it, the, more we can help people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You talked about vaping and like when we grew up, it was cigarettes. Yes. Is vaping and alcohol both up there on the problems? Are you seeing more vaping than alcohol, or just
Great
kind
question.
of those substances? What are you seeing?
Yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday in one of my committee meetings. Vaping is definitely huge on the rise. And it's interesting because kids don't realize, they see it as flavored liquid. Mm-hmm. So they're not seeing it as, nicotine, because you're not lighting something and smoking something in the same way. But it is so much more dangerous. And Project for Teens did an incredible PSA on vaping, with the kids, talking to kids about it in all different situations. But the other thing that's unfortunate is we're seeing marijuana being vaped, and that the consistency of THC in one of those, when you're vaping, is like equivalent to like 96%. So it's very, very highly, highly addictive, and lots of physical health problems are coming along with it.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
I'll say it again. We could talk all day.
Right? Yes. It's a lot.
What goals and aspirations do you have for the future of Project for Teens?
Oh gosh. Well, we talked at the beginning. I'd love to see it grow. I would love to see this in every school. Mm-hmm. Every school, because when you look at just regular development of adolescence, one of the most important things is peer-to-peer impression. And so when your child's leaving for the day and you're telling them, don't forget to be awesome and I love you so much and things like that, is so important. But unfortunately, how their peers perceive them can trump the words sometimes of parents. And so when we've got teens really talking to youth and to teens, and it becomes so much more effective. So I would love to grow the program. I would love to see, to get more kids involved. We work really, really hard when leaders are chosen to make sure that when a student is sitting in the audience, that they can look up and relate to someone. Yeah. Oh, I know her because she did the lights in the school play, and I recognize him from, the skateboard park, or I saw that person once in summer school. And this year too, it was really important too that we had special ed kids with all kinds of different diagnoses involved too. So, we don't just want athletes. We want all kinds. We want kids that don't do sports or aren't involved. We want representation of all the different populations that you'd see in a classroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you had an aha moment in your career where you felt like you were right where you were meant to be?
Yeah, that happens every day. Two things, with so many uncertainties now in the world, if you really, really need to restore your faith in humanity, you come in and watch these Project for Teen Kids work. The other thing I will say is when I took this program on, Brody was 1 and Ethan was 4, and I told my husband at the time, I said, wouldn't it be incredible if our kids could benefit from this someday? And it just seemed like such a wild thing because I have a 1 and 4-year-old, and I'm not gonna get choked up, but my 16-year-old is currently one of our leaders, and to watch the program as a parent, like I didn't know, and some of the things that he comes home and says and how he interprets everything and how it spews out in all of these different situations in his life, I didn't necessarily realize that just being the director of this program, because I didn't have a kid. And I remember Brody in 6th grade, it was right when we were doing the hybrid type thing, and we didn't sneak them in, we had permission, but we got permission to have Project for Teens come in and work with kids right at the end of the school year when things were just starting to open up. And he said to me, he goes, that was the most awesome day of my life in like forever, because it's just been so long since they got to do anything like that. And to constantly see kids in the community wearing these bands. I meant to bring you in one, but we give kids bands, and they just say Project for Teen, #BeKind, and it says, what's your superpower? And the whole essence behind that is, at the beginning of every presentation, regardless of what grade, our leaders all have a superhero power. And their power might be integrity or optimistic, or it might be resourceful, or it might be being responsible. And they explain that word, and they explain, and then those different powers are used throughout our skits and things like that. But they kind of own that. So when they're talking about when things are hard, being an upstander versus the bystander type of thing, when things are hard, how they use that personal superpower in their life and how that helps them. And then each kid gets their own superpower before they leave. But those things are my aha moment. My aha moment was last year when a 10th grader came in, and he was wearing one of our Project for Teen bracelets, rubber little bracelets from years back, and he said, I got this in 6th grade and I haven't taken it off. Oh. I know, because this is what I wanted to do. This is what I've been waiting to do.
Oh. Yeah. Amazing.
It is amazing. And the fact that high schoolers want to do this, I mean, they're volunteering to do this. They have to get out of school to do this. They have to learn to manage their classes and do all their work on the side, and to just want to do this so passionately. And in return, they get some gas station donuts and Domino's pizza. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And it also tells me that we're going to be okay, because these are our future leaders. And if we're not investing in kids and teens, we're going to have a hard time. But I will tell you, some of the coolest things too is we've got a former Project for Teen leader that owns a business in town that's on our board. We've got another former Project for Teen leader that is one of our advisors at Loyola. And I remember being a part of the Women of Hearts committee for United Way when Maria Pearson was the chair, and she was one of my leaders. And I was like, when I'm sitting on a committee with one of my former Project for Teen leaders leading the entire event, my job is done. Like, that is exactly, I'm just trying to create these incredible leaders that hopefully want to stay in our greater community area, and we'll just continue to see them do incredible things.
It's so beautiful. And like these full circle moments that you've shared are just really special. Yeah. So if people want to get involved, whether it be like on the board or like, can people donate, or what does all of this look like?
Oh my gosh, people can donate. Like I said, I've only been able to raise enough money to continue to grow the program. I haven't raised enough money yet to pay a staff or pay myself, so in order to continue to grow and to have more kids be a part of Project for Teens and to expand to schools that are asking all over, all the way up past the metro, can we please get this program? We do have to be able to financially support that. So yes, donations are incredibly important. We always have room at our table on our board, always, and we welcome especially whatever walk of life you come from, we need your expertise. Yeah, and so you can learn information, of course, on our website that was just in the process of getting a facelift, and we're on social media as well under Project for Teens.
Well, thank you so much for all of this incredible work that you and your team are doing, and I'm just overwhelmed with like gratitude that this program exists in our community. I will have a student who will experience it for the first time this year, and I just can't wait to hear from his perspective what it's like as a 5th grader to have these cool high school kids that are making kindness and caring cool coming into the school. And so it's just so special, and it's been awesome getting a chance to learn more. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, it's just incredibly humbling. And, if you do see one of our teens in the community with their Project for Teen shirt on, or that this is the work that they're doing, take a moment and acknowledge that. Really do, because I cannot tell you from the bottom of my heart how incredibly in awe I am of these teenagers.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kate.
you.
Thanks for listening to the Build Blue podcast. We'll see you next week.